everybody, and welcome back to another episode. John here from Invesrep, and today we're going to be talking about the beautiful green tree python as part of our species spotlight. So if you are a fan of Morelia and you've had a bit of experience with the genus, then you might want to look at upgrading to the green tree python. And the snake definitely speaks for itself, the absolute beauty in these animals. But they do come with a few warnings, which we are going to cover shortly in this video. Okay, so as I've mentioned, these are Morelia, so they are of the same genus as most of your carpet pythons, all of your true carpet pythons. The green tree python occurs across a number of localities across Indonesia and to northern Australia. And I believe a bit of work is being done on the genus at the moment, on the green tree pythons, and to potentially split them into individual species. But we'll watch that space and see what happens. But at the moment, these are Morelia viridis, the green tree python, and an absolutely gorgeous snake at that. So the keeping, if you are looking at upgrading to a green tree python, or you have fallen in love with the snake, seen it elsewhere, and you want to get yourself one, they do come with a few warnings as far as husbandry is concerned. Should be kept by keepers with at least some experience in sensitive snakes, and these can definitely be sensitive if their enclosures aren't correctly set up and the feeding regimen not closely enough followed. So we'll touch on enclosures for a bit. As the name suggests, green tree python, these are arboreal snakes, so they like to climb, but they also like width in the enclosures as well. So during the day, if you've ever seen one of these during the day, they will sit curled up, often just motionless for the entire day, but at night they move around a lot, and they'll explore an enclosure, whatever the size it is, up and down, left, right. So it is good to provide them with a decent size enclosure, at least for a single animal, 1.2 by 600 by 600 high. You can go a bit higher as well. You can go 800 or 900 millimeters high in the enclosure, but at least 1.2 by 600 by 600 or 1.2 by 600 by 700 for a single animal. Their temperature requirements can be a bit tricky. These snakes like to bask at a temperature of 28 to 29 degrees, but also then do need to cool off on the cooler side of the enclosure down to kind of 24, 25 degrees, maybe a little bit lower during the summer, during the winter months. But you need to watch those temperatures quite closely. So do not attempt to keep one of these snakes in the enclosure if you're not thermostatically controlling the heat source. That is a very dangerous thing. These snakes can overheat very quickly, and a lot of people get it wrong. They think that they come from tropical climates, they can handle temperatures well into the 30s, and snakes, these green tree pythons, won't do well at those temperatures. They live kind of below the canopy levels and things like that, often quite close to the ground where it is a bit cooler. They bask in dappled sunlight, so they're not exposing themselves to significantly high temperatures, kind of from the mid 30s and above. And we see a lot of people making that mistake. First time green tree python keepers, keeping them way too hot or way too cold. So you need to do your research and make sure that the enclosure is set up with those temperature parameters as accurately as you can provide it. Then with regards to feeding, a lot of people overfeed these animals, which isn't good for them at all. We see a lot of overweight green tree pythons in the market, and being fed, large rats or rats that are actually too large for these snakes to properly process and properly handle. So a good feeding of a green tree python would be a large jumbo mouse every 3 weeks. They don't need to eat rats. They don't need to eat anything larger than a large jumbo mouse. And once every 3 weeks, or after the snake is defecated, then you'll know it's safe to feed that snake again. They are prone to gut impactions if fed incorrectly, which also goes hand in hand with not keeping them at the right humidity level, so on and so forth. And on humidity, they don't need rainforest conditions in the enclosures. Relevant humidity in the enclosure from anywhere from 60 to 70% is usually okay for them, with the occasional mist spraying if they need it. And if you have one of these and it's battling to shed its skin, that's the first indication that something is off with the humidity levels in your enclosure. And then how we would generally fix that in a snake is by soaking it. But these prefer a rain chamber, which is basically a enclosure with a plastic perch, and the water is rained on. Also temperature controlled. We make the water a bit warm with an aquarium heater, and we run that through a pump, and it rains physically on the snake. And that's generally a good way to rehydrate these animals. If you get one in that's now a bit dehydrated from shipping, or whatever the reason might be, or struggling to shed, we prefer to use rain chambers. They don't soaking them in a tub often stresses them out, so we perch them and we construct rain chambers that rain on these animals. And then with regards to the neonates, obviously with the hatchlings of these animals, we will raise them in 11-liter tubs typically, with some perches crossed to and from across the tub until they outgrow that, and then we'll upgrade them to a smaller RectiCube PVC enclosure, and then to the eventual RectiCube PVC enclosures, which we manufacture and produce for such snakes. And we have an arboreal range in that line, which are perfect for keeping these animals. And that is pretty much it for the green tree python. If I've missed anything or you have any other questions, please feel free to ask and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video.